Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started, and what are they doing to stay there? And here we are. We are rounding down the final episode for the HR Southwest Conference, as we have been talking to speakers about topics that are coming up for this year's HR Southwest Conference coming to Fort Worth, Texas. October the 15th through the 18th in the Fort Worth Convention Center. And today, oh my goodness, we brought in the conference director to talk about what this is all about today. Today, I'm getting to talk to Tom Barton. Tom, he's a divisional director of human resources for the Salvation Army. He is our 2023 HR Southwest Conference director. And Tom, I'm so glad to have you on the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, Bruce.
I always like to start the show. As you know, you've listened to a few episodes of when I met my guests, or maybe when they came into my path. Tom, you and I have known each other for a long time. I was looking back, maybe 8 to 10 years, but I remember meeting you. I think you were right before you became the director of the student engagement for Dallas HR and the HR Southwest Conference. And I'm excited to talk to you, not just because you're the director, but because you have just so much history there. You've been a volunteer leader. You're a former president for Dallas HR in 2020. You have been a speaker at the conference. So you know a whole lot about what's so amazing about this conference.
Yeah, we've good thing we're keeping this on track, Bruce, since we've known each other so long. I mean, we could go 3 hours like Joe Rogan and just rip about a bunch of different topics. So let's stay focused and we'll get it done.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to talk about the HR Southwest Conference. Very exciting coming up. We're going to talk today about some keynotes. We're going to talk about just all the exciting things going on. And for those of you that are attending, to get you excited about it. And those of you who are thinking about attending, maybe you'll hear something today that will say, hey, you know what? I need to be there. And so that's what we're hoping today. Mm-hmm. But before we get started, I would love for you to share the Tom Barton story. Like, let's get to know our conference director. Where did you grow up? And how in the world did you get into leadership, especially volunteer leadership?
I grew up for the most part, in Orange County, Southern California, born and raised for the most part, except for 4 very formative years of my childhood. At 7 years old, my parents took our family overseas. They went to be missionaries in Kenya, East Africa. And so 4 very formative years of my life, I was, exposed to a very different way of life, different cultures, different religions, different races, ethnicities, groups. At the time, I was just like overwhelmed and didn't know. You're a kid, you don't know any better. And but looking back on it, it was probably one of the most formative and amazing experiences of my life, and I don't regret it at all that we spent 4 years of my life there. We came back to the States, back to Southern California. Went off to college to be a IT major. I thought, hey, that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to get into programming, get all ready for that, and realized halfway through that this wasn't a good fit for me, and started looking around and figuring out, and decided upon an HR major of all things, to go from IT to HR. So I'm this weird combination, techie and HR people person. So people have always looked at me really funny and it's like, how did that go together? And I still don't know, but it's led me on a great path, and it's amazing how technology is infiltrated within HR over the years. It's been a real good sweet spot for me. Eventually got married to a wonderful woman from Seattle, Washington. We lived there for several years doing different things. I was basically in the IT space, dabbled in an HR position, was back and forth for a few years, and then finally got into an HR leadership role, and never turned back really at that point. It's been a great opportunity to get in and do a lot of amazing things, and live in California. But you know what, most importantly, been in Texas for the last 17 years. So we've been in the Dallas area, and it's been a great move for the family, and for my career, and for everything that we've been able to be a part of. And really, as far as leadership especially, it's one of those things where, first and foremost, my parents modeled a volunteer leadership model for me by giving selflessly to just abandon everything and go overseas and serve people. And so seeing what they did, that example they set for me, had a huge impact on my life. And as a result, I was always had a heart for service and being able to give back to others. And volunteering was always a thing. And I think from a leadership role, I really can look back to, I was about 16, 17 years old. My youth pastor sat me down one time and said, "You're a leader."
Mm.
I didn't want to be a leader. I mean, I honestly, when he did that, I go, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't want to be a leader." He goes, "You're a leader. And when the other kids watch you, they take your lead. You act up, they act up. You pay attention, behave, they pay attention, behave. They follow your lead." And I go, "Oh, no, 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 that's not true." Because I think the big reason I was denying it, because I knew with leadership comes great accountability, great responsibility. And so I didn't want that. But he told me, he goes, "Hey, go check it out. You watch. Just sit back and watch how people react when you do different things." Sure enough, next time we were together, I'm watching, and I was horrified. Because it was like, he's right. They do follow what I'm doing. This is scary. And I recognized at that point, somebody recognized something in my life and something I could do and something I was gifted at, and it called me out for it. And I've never been the same since.
I love that. I love that. Your youth pastor, you're a leader. Thank you for him saying that, because you've done a great job. You've led Dallas HR organization in many different areas, and now you're leading this incredible conference. Well, let's talk about the 2023 HR Southwest conference. I was looking at the theme we have, and that's learn, network, and grow. And I've been asking my guests, like, what does that mean to them? I would love for you to weigh in on that. When you hear learn, network, and grow, what's that mean to you, Tom?
Well, to me, I kind of break it down in kind of three successive components, and really the learn piece that's the most basic of it, because you're sitting there and listening to a bunch of amazing speakers and educational content. It's a time where you can absorb a lot in HR knowledge and leadership knowledge and various components of our profession. And so that's just at the base level. There's a lot to learn, but then you build on that with the networking component. And with the networking, it's funny. Sometimes it's just getting to know people. Other times it's, reuniting with a lot of old close friends and colleagues. But it's a time to sit down and network and find out, hey, what did you learn from this person? Hey, who was a good speaker? Hey, what are you going to apply at your place of work? This is where that what you've learned starts, moving into practice. You're starting to share ideas, examples, and way to implement and way to push things through, and that develops that experience that leads to the wisdom, and all that then leads to you being able to grow with this, because without that learning and networking, you're not going to be able to grow and really bring it forth in your professional life as well as to your company.
I love that, every bit of that. Well, let's talk about some of the things going on at the conference, and starting out with the keynotes. I know you've made some announcements on the keynotes for this year. Talk a little bit about the keynotes and what excites you about these incredible speakers.
Well, our opening keynote is Morris Morrison, and he's a phenomenal guy. He's got an amazing story. I've had a chance to talk with him already, and he just has an ability to just connect with you and speak right to you in a very personal and relatable way. And I think everybody will be very inspired by his story and what he values in HR. It's not something where he's just an inspirational speaker. He has a real great heart for HR and those HR professionals. And so he's going to speak to us, directly to us, not just a broad range inspirational speech. He's going to speak to HR professionals he identifies with us. And then our closing keynote is Eric Bailey. Eric Bailey has been a longtime speaker here at HR Southwest for several years, and he winds up being almost pretty much our top-rated speaker, one of our top-rated speakers each and every year. Everybody loves him. He's very engaging. He hangs out, interacts with people, all the attendees. He's not just comes into his session and jets out. He actually relates to folks, and he has a real passion for the neuroscience of work and employees. And so he's going to bring a lot of important elements that people can apply and take back to their job.
Yeah, I'm excited about both of them. As a matter of fact, I had Eric M. Bailey on the podcast, so you can check him out if you want to listen to Eric. Had him on last year, and he talked about the cure for stupidity, and that caught my attention. And he is phenomenal. Both of them are very energizing, and I cannot wait. I've been going to the conference for over 10 years, and I just keynotes just have a way to inspire you to take action, just to and it's almost like they kickstart your day. Right. And when you're talking about learn, network, and grow, and you're networking with different people, it's always like, hey, what'd you think about the keynote? And there's always that one idea that can really move you. Talk a little bit about, I don't know, maybe some of the other things that you're excited about for this year's conference that you've been planning for. By the way, how long does the planning take on a conference like this, Tom?
Planning, I mean, realistically, planning's ongoing. It never stops. For each specific year, obviously, we take a short amount of downtime after the conference is over, but I think it's back at it. It's really a year-long process when it comes to planning the experience for all the attendees and making sure they're having a great time and really enjoying themselves. And then just the time it takes to review all the various speaker proposals that we get. Even though we offer, you see all these sessions that are available over, 70 plus sessions and things while you're there, you wouldn't believe at how many proposals we receive and how much time it takes to review them and discuss them. It's a very time intensive process, but we've got a great staff, great group of volunteers that really knock it out of the park each and every year. It's just amazing what they do.
Exciting. So we'll have your speakers, general sessions. I think there's close to 100 different speakers for the sessions. Talk a little bit about the attendee experience. I always like to talk about that because, in the workplace, we're always talking about, the employee experience or the customer experience. But when it comes to a conference, we want to know, like, what's the attendee experience? What's that going to be like this year, Tom?
Oh, it's going to be just build on all the successes that Shirley Johnson and the team brought last year. We had amazing reviews. People were just, over the moon about how much of a good time they had, how much they learned. And, there's so much about not just learning, but having just a great experience while you're there. It's like Maya Angelou says, people are going to remember how you made them feel, not necessarily what you say. And so we really value that and want to make sure every attendee has a great experience there. And so whether it's from our new attendee orientation that we do first thing on Monday morning, where we're actually setting the table for all of our new attendees to know what to expect, how to best take advantage of the conference, providing that opportunity right then and there to network and get to know people, to connect with some veteran attendees, to, you have lunch that's served Mondays and Tuesdays. You got a great opportunity to sit down with your colleagues and professionals and interact with a lot of different folks from all over the nation, really. This isn't just attendees from the state of Texas. We get people from all over the country, sometimes a few international folks wander in. And that lunchtime is real, we don't just throw you a box lunch and sit you down and then rush off to another session. We give you plenty of time to walk through that buffet line. We do have a pretty good lunch that we serve there. That's part of the experience. And you get to sit down and have a good conversation with folks. And one of those areas of conversation I definitely recommend, you mentioned my experience working with the college students. We have several designated tables for college students that are attending the conference. We typically get over 100 college students that attend every year, and it's their first time often to interact with HR professionals in a business setting. They've been hearing it all from their professors and all the folks in academia. Now it's like they want to hear what it's like in the real world. They want to start connecting and figure out, hey, where do I want to go? Do I want to specialize in a certain area of HR? Do I want to be a generalist? They're looking for not to build that network, to start it off, but also just to help themselves grow and expand their knowledge of how the whole recruiting process, whole landscape works. And so we have tables designated for them and for professionals to come and sit down and interact with them. It's a great opportunity to give back to that next generation of HR professionals. And then, of course, you can't forget the evening events that we have. It's, after a long day of sitting and listening to some great speakers, you want to kick back. And Monday night, we're hanging out in the marketplace. And not only are you getting to interact with the various vendors that are there, there's a few libations that are thrown around. It's another great opportunity to network. And then Tuesday night's the big show that we have for everybody to just say thank you for being here. Have a great time. We have a DJ, we have a dance floor, we have a really good time. And we're just going to do a similar Denim and Diamonds theme as last year, but going to put another twist on it. So it's a great opportunity. And networking doesn't stop there, because there's things that go on off site, across the street. Bruce, we've done that before. I know we've closed some things down.
Oh yeah, no question about that. I mean, there's so much, so many opportunities to just connect, really, at the end of the day. And that's during the conference as well as after conference dinners, different things like that. I love that. I do want to just step back just for a second, go back in time, Tom, with you for a second, because there's probably some people that are listening that have thought about attending the conference, right? Or not sure if they should attend the conference. And I want to ask you a couple of different questions. The first question is around, do you have to be in HR to attend this conference? That's one of the things. And then the second thing is go back in your mind, because I always like to go back and when I first started attending. And I remember when I just showed up, and it didn't, I was excited about it, but I didn't really know a lot of people at the time. And just each year I've built on that, and I've grown so much from just being around different people and learning different things throughout that conference. Talk about your experience, and again, do you have to be in HR to attend?
No, you absolutely not. We get people from a variety of roles, and HR is not, it's not solely about HR in a lot of ways. There's so much leadership content that is provided in here. It doesn't matter whether you're a HR leader, you're a marketing leader, you're an operations leader. There's something there for you. So don't think it's only HR. Definitely not one of those things that are required. But as far as, my experience, the first time I went to the conference was in 2012. I remember, not knowing anybody. And it's kind of daunting when you're going, around 1,000 people. You don't know anybody. How do you best take advantage of it? And, one of my things that I love to do is we've talked about this, is I love to volunteer. So I said, hey, how can I help? And that's one of those ways that I started asking questions. How can I help? How can I get involved? How can I be more involved? Because that's what I found, is that's through those volunteer opportunities, as I've gotten more engaged in both, with the conference as well as the Dallas HR, is that's where I make even deeper connections with people. That's where I get to know a lot more folks. The president of Dallas HR, Mike Pierce, him and I met at conference, volunteering together. The first year we both volunteered. It's just amazing how you can get to know some people, have some valuable professional relationships, but also so many of them develop into some quality friendships. And but it just, you got to take that effort to get engaged and get involved. And for somebody that's an extrovert like me or you, that's something that comes easy. But even for the introverts, it's not like you just jump into a crowd and just start interacting. Find 1-2 people and just connect, like over lunch at a table. Just connect with one person, or connect to the person sitting next to you in a session. There's a way to take value out of this, no matter where you're coming from.
I love that. Okay, if you're listening right now, you just need to take a pen and write down, ask the question, how can I help? That's such great advice. It's so simple. Suzanne Meyer said on the podcast one time, it's the easy, hard stuff. It's easy to do, but it's so hard to do. But I love what you said. You don't have to go find a lot of people, just find someone and just start that conversation. I love that. Hey, let's talk a little bit about, Tony Bridwell's coming back
Yes,
to
he
be
is.
the MC this year. Tony Bridwell, phenomenal. He's also been on the podcast. Check him out as well. And I want to talk also about, you have a Hall of Fame speaker this year in Rick Robinson. I'm so excited to see him get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Talk a little bit about the marketplace, because the conference seems to like be surrounded by the marketplace. You have incredible sponsors and exhibitors. Talk a little bit about that, Tom.
Yeah, we have over 100 vendors and then sponsors that'll be there, basically providing you the information about their various products and services that they have available. We all know in HR, we can't do it alone. We have a lot of partners that we work with, whether it's benefits or recruiting, various forms of technology, reward systems. There's so much that so many different partners that we interact with and engage in on a day-to-day basis, that this gives you the opportunity to see what the latest ideas are that are out there. If you're just interacting with one vendor over time, you only hear it from their perspective. By being able to come out on the vendor floor, you're able to interact and talk with these vendors and find out, hey, what do you do that's different than the other one? I mean, one of my sweet spots is HRS. So you can, I love going and finding out, hey, what do you do differently than ADP or differently than Paycom or different than Ceridian? All these kind of things you can find out and talk to them to find out, well, how will it benefit you and how will it benefit your organization? And so definitely take the time to, we set aside time, like at lunch and at in Monday evening, we have our networking event in the marketplace. That time set aside just so all of our attendees can walk the halls and talk to various people, and there'll be puppy cuddling as always. And if you need that little moment in the marketplace just to unwind, there are some of the most amazing dogs, puppies that you can just go and unwind with.
It's always a favorite. That's fantastic. I love that. This is so good, because I just want people to know that there's a lot going on, and there's really a lot for everyone. I've had a chance to interview some incredible speakers already over the past 4 weeks. I've had Matt May on the show, and he's going to be speaking about team building. You have a former NFL player in Ben Utek. Not just an NFL player, but a Super Bowl champion. He's going to talk about a champion's creed, developing a Super Bowl culture. He's super inspirational. We've got to hear from Lee and Julie Colan. They're going to talk about healthy leadership, and I'm super excited to see them as well. And then Mallory Heron. Also got to visit with her, and she's going to be talking about, the employee experience, leveraging that to retain talent. So you've got a lot of great speakers. I'm just curious if you've spoken before, when you get feedback from your attendees and they've come out of different sessions from some of these phenomenal speakers, what are you hoping they'll share with you?
I think they're hoping. I'm hoping they'll share something on a personal level and how it impacts them, how it makes a difference in their lives. I think one thing that I think a lot of people shy away from is when the opportunity to have a conversation with the speaker at the end of the session is there, take advantage of it. You'll get to know them, connect with them, get some additional experience and knowledge from them. I know when I was speaking last year, there was these couple of young ladies that were sitting next to a former employee of mine, and they made a comment to her towards the end, like, he seems like somebody you could really easily talk to and discuss things with. And she goes, "Oh yeah, he is. You go up and talk to him. Go up and talk to him." And she those girls came up and talked to me and asked me some questions. But that was great, and they reinforced what they think and what they thought about the whole situation. So it's great to be able to interact with them and do that. And it's great, Bruce, what you're doing to kind of show the type of speakers that we're going to have at HR Southwest. You're doing a phenomenal service to not only show the quality that we bring to the table. You know, you yourself are speaking, and you always bring a lot to the table every year. Why do you speak every year at HR Southwest?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I that's like my favorite conference of the year. I just love to go and share about what's passionate for me, because if it affects me, I feel like if it impacts me, I feel like I can impact others with that message. And this year, I'm going to be talking about changing lanes. A lot of times we wonder, like, should I do something different? And maybe there's a system that I can think through to see, okay, do I need to actually change lanes or change perspectives, or do I need to just like accelerate and keep doing what I'm doing? So yeah, no, I'm excited. And I'm always hoping someone will come up at the end of the session for me and say, hey, this one thing that you said, I'm going to take that and I'm going to apply that.
Yeah.
And that's going to help me, and that's going to help someone else along the way. And so I appreciate you sharing that. That's so good. Hey, I'd like to ask leaders, like, what drives you?
For me, it's there's several things really that drive me. Faith and family first and foremost. That's at the heart of who I am. And I think as far as beyond that, I get a lot out of developing others. I had somebody ask me in an interview a few years ago, you know, what brings you joy in your work? And, you know, I thought about that. I go, oh, this is an interesting question. What do I really get joy out of it? And, you know, bottom line, it's seeing, for me, I get immense joy in seeing people develop and having a hand in their growth and development, and seeing them ascend in their careers and just become better people and better professionals. And, you know, I look back and that's one of those opportunities you get at HR Southwest, is to reconnect with some of the folks you've had an impact on in your life, whether they're people you've actually worked with or volunteered with, you've mentored, whoever it may be. You're able to reconnect and in you know, a lot more time than you have normally throughout the year, and sit down and find out what's going on, and hearing some of their stories, and realize it just brings me an amazing amount of joy to watch the growth in their lives, and knowing that I had a hand in that, and they're so grateful for it. I'm just like, I don't know, it does something for me. I love it.
I have chills as you share that, because I can feel what that means to you. And by the way, that's a great segue, because I cannot like end this conversation without talking about the team. Like, it's not just Tom Barton. You talked earlier about Shirley Johnson and all the former leaders that have paved the way. Talk a little bit about your team. Lisa Harris coming up right behind you as the conference director elect. Talk a little bit about the team that makes it happen.
Oh, the team is just phenomenal, and it wouldn't happen without them. You know, whether it's staff or the volunteers and volunteer leaders, and definitely having Lisa Harris come along, work alongside with me, and kind of watch her grow to be able to take the baton for next year. She's going to do an amazing job. She's a volunteer guru herself. I mean, she's doing double duty between this and PTA, and as a volunteer leader in the PTA. She loves this stuff. So you know, what she brings to it's going to be great. And our two committee directors, who've both been guests on your show, Kim Pashota and Rhonda Clemente, they're doing an outstanding job in bringing the educational sessions committee and attendee experience committee and all they bring to make this conference successful. They're doing a fantastic job.
That's fantastic. I love that, because it does. Teamwork makes the dream work. The HR Southwest Conference is coming October the 15th through the 18th, Fort Worth Convention Center. You can register. I'll put the link in the show notes at hrsouthwest.com. If you want to learn a little bit more about some of the speakers, you can also look up the speakers at hrsouthwest.com. I do want to, in this, before we shift, for those that are listening right now, they're listening, they're on the edge. They're like, I want to be there, but I don't know if my leadership will pay for me to be there, or will help. What's some, I don't know, maybe share some advice that you might share for someone listening right now that just needs a little, I don't know, maybe a little push to say, why is it important to attend this conference?
Not only do you get a bunch of certification credits for your HR certification, if your employer values your HR certification, It's something you can tell them, hey, I can just take 3 short days and knock out a bulk of my recertification credits that I need for the certification that you value that I have. That's one component. Another is if you have a particular projects and goals that you're going to be working on, that you have, on the strategic plan for the coming year or two, pinpoint those items and say, hey, go look at the educational sessions that are listed on the website, and let your leadership know that, hey, look, they're speaking exactly to this particular project goal that we have. I can gain some valuable information, not only from that speaker, but also others in attendance who will have similar experiences and will be able to share and come up with some good ideas and solutions to bring back to our organization. There's a lot of benefit to it. And the more people you get to know, the more people you'll be able to ask questions about. I know for myself, it's been getting to know these folks. And then whenever I've run into some situations or have some major project that I've run into a wall on, reach out to some of the professionals I've met throughout this conference and the local chapters and everything, and say, hey, I'm running into this, and we have to do this. We're having this problem. How have you dealt with this? And it's amazing how many people have gone through the same things that we have. And we like to think that we're just in this world by ourselves and nobody knows our pain and problems, but we share in that. And so there's a lot of great information and valuable experience to share.
That is fantastic. I love everything about that. You definitely want to attend the HR Southwest conference. So register and invite a colleague, invite someone to join you so you can have somebody alongside with you. Hey, Tom, I always like to ask this question to my guests. Any advice you've received in your career, maybe his early career, maybe his mid-career, late career? It's just so good. You just find yourself sharing with others.
There's so much. I've had so many people speak into my life, so many people mentor me, so many people provide amazing things. Like I mentioned my youth pastor earlier. I think the one that's really resonated over the last few years has been, I heard somebody really break down and focus on, and it's something from scripture. It's Micah 6:8. And it basically sums up as act justly, love kindness, and walk humbly. Those three have to happen in unison together. They've got to be in balance. And that should, we as HR professionals need to be just in our actions. We've got to be fair. And we have to be kind to our employees. If we're fair but not unkind, people won't care. They'll just look at us at how unkind we are. And then we've got to be humble in our approach to everything and not act like we have all the answers and we're better than everybody else in the organization. And all three of those have to really work together. And so I always have to kind of, I check back in those three statements and really make sure that, I'm operating that.
I love that. And what I love about that, as you're sharing that, I'm sitting here thinking that's another benefit to attending the conference is that you get to validate your walk, right? How you approach things. You get to see what good looks like. You get to see different ways people approach different things. But I love that because it just really gives you a chance to, go away for, 3 days and come back refreshed and re-energized and moving forward. And that's so good. I love that. I cannot wait for the HR Southwest conference, Tom. I'm so excited. I've been watching you and your leadership for many, many years. I know it's going to be another great conference. And I'm going to, again, put the link in the show notes. Hey, I do want to ask you a few fun questions. It's time to accelerate. I want to ask you, you've been doing this for a while. What's your favorite conference memory? Do you have a favorite?
So many memories, but I think the one that sticks out of my mind comes from last year. And there was somebody that used to work with me, Fabi Ordonez. She was at those sessions, and she brought a coworker of hers that was now working for her. And we got talking, and she said, it was interesting because of the dynamic between the two. And she goes, Fabi said, oh, so much of what I learned was from Tom. I do so many things like Tom. And it was funny. Her employee was just like, yeah, she does that, just like you, does that, just like you. And so seeing the impact I had on somebody's life like that, seeing them emulate, that can be scary if you're going to emulate me at times. But it's one of those things, though. It was just great to hear,
Yeah.
on what kind of impact I've had on somebody's life professionally.
I love that. I love that. Hey, you mentioned a lot of things we have to look forward to. What are you most looking forward to in October as we get to the conference?
It's so many times people will say, "Oh, I can't wait till it's over," and when and I'm going to say, I'm looking forward to passing the baton, but it's not because I'm looking forward to it being over. I'm looking forward to it being a situation where I've paved the way for the future conference leaders like Lisa Harris and others to be successful, not only in their roles, but this is just another layer, another foundation that we've put in place to make the conference more successful from year to year. That's where I look. I'm always looking forward. I'm not just looking at the present moment and how we make this better. It's always like, hey, what can we do better next time? And so that's something I always look forward to.
Well, I know you are going to have a lot going on during the conference. That everybody has their headsets on. You're all talking back and forth, collaborating, making sure everything goes well for all the attendees, all the incredible sponsors and guests at the conference. But I'm curious, like, what energizes you while you're at the conference?
Just catching up with people I haven't seen. And, sometimes I haven't seen them since the previous conference, and being able to reconnect. It's like I've heard people talk about it like it's a class reunion, a family reunion. It's a wonderful time to come together and just reconnect and find out, hey, how they're doing personally, professionally. It's just, there's so many people that you just don't see because they're coming from all over the state, and so, and then over time you wind up moving on to different companies, organizations, taking on different roles, and you get so busy and wrapped up in your everyday life. It's hard to stay connected on a regular basis, but now you have the time to see each other in person and take the time just to sit down and say, hey, what's going on? What's been happening? Love it. Love it.
I love it as well. I think that's probably what energizes me the most too, is just catching up with everyone and just visiting for a few minutes and seeing familiar faces, as well as getting introduced to new people. It's very energizing because then all of a sudden you're like, hey, well, how can I help you? Just like the question you said earlier, how can I help you navigate through this incredible conference?
If people need help, all they need to do is look for this black shirt. This is what us conference volunteers will be wearing throughout the conference. Look for us in the black shirt and we'll help you with anything you might need.
I love that. If you're listening right now, Tom is wearing his HR Southwest conference shirt, his black polo shirt with the logo. And so, yeah, definitely look for the conference volunteers. They'll be more than happy to help you. Hey, I got one final question, probably my favorite question I like to ask all of my guests on the show. And that is, Tom, 10 years older, is around the corner and he's knocking at your door. And you're going to answer that door. What's he going to tell you?
Stop whining. Stop complaining about the challenges and the problems and the difficulties you have. Be grateful for all the obstacles and challenges that come your way. Those trying times, as you persevere, that's where you grow. And you don't see how it's shaping you, informing you, and making you a better person. But, it takes the benefit of time and hindsight to be able to see how those moments really shape you into who you are 10, 15, 20 years later. So be thankful that you're going through these things. There's a reason for it. There's a benefit that you will get out of it. Make an opportunity from it.
That's a wise 10 years older Tom Barton. I always say great leaders are grateful leaders, and I'm grateful for you, especially sharing that message today. There's probably someone right now that said, hey, I needed that. And so, hey, I appreciate you coming on the show, sharing all the exciting things happening at this year's HR Southwest conference. Again, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes, but what if someone heard something today and they're like, you know what? I want to connect with Tom. I want to follow him throughout this journey up to the conference. How is the best way for someone to connect?
Between now and the conference, the best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn, probably. That's typically the best way to check it frequently. But at the conference, the best way to connect with me, come up and say hi. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to come up and say hi to me, introduce yourself, and let's get to know each other.
I love it. As a matter of fact, when you go up to Tom at the conference, I want you to add, you tell Tom hello and say, hey, I heard you on Life in the Leadership Lane podcast, and share something that he said that maybe impacted you. And so, hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate your leadership. Cannot wait for this conference. And most importantly, I appreciate your friendship. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you very much. I value everything you do. You've been a great friend.
Awesome. Hey, I can't wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye.